Good morning, guys. So here we are, MC2 Fast Colour. I'm really excited to present this for you. Do the usual for me because actually today I'm sharing my screen with you, so it will give me better option to be able to do this so that you can see the full presentation. So if you just write in the little comment for me, morning, and that you can hear me and everything is good. Wow, we've got quite a few people on today. Hi. It's my lockdown hair. I need a haircut. Good morning, everyone. Okay, this is good. So I'm going to get started. I'm really sorry if there's a little banging in the background. My front door has broken this morning. The lock came off, and the lovely 24-hour locksmith is out to rescue. So you might hear a couple of little things. I'm sure we'll be fine and we'll get busy. So a couple of the things that I wanted to talk to you about before we start. I'm really excited for MC2 Fast Colour because I think Debbie and I were talking about it earlier, and I was thinking actually it's a little more about a service rather than just the colour. So of course we've got all the information for you colour-wise, but I really think it's an added service to us, and I think we've been waiting for something like this, not just for what's going on now in this current crazy world, but actually for our future hairdressing. Am I echoing to you guys, or is everything good? All good. Okay, perfect. So I shall carry on. So I really wanted to get across because I'm not sure if we managed to get it across well last week about how Fast Colour will be an added service into your salons. Yes, I think it's going to be great now, but I think for our future, it's going to be really good, and it is not in any way, shape or form taking over MC2, Julieta or M3K at all. This is purely what it says on the box, Fast Colour. So we are going to work with that. So let me go through the presentation. If you've got some questions, remember to pop them in the blue question form for me so I can answer everything. As we go along, hopefully I'll answer as many questions, like little things as we're going through. But I wanted to talk to you first and get all the information that you may have missed last week, or if you guys actually haven't seen it at all. So here we go. It's a permanent colour. We've got 34 shades, so we are keeping it quite minimum. The reason for this you'll understand in a little while as we go through. You do get 100% long-lasting coverage. I'm just going to reaffirm to you that it is a permanent hair colour. Depending on how we change the peroxides, we can make it into a demi as well. So we are the same as MC2. It is ammonia-free. And again, we've got no added PPD. We have a really small amount of ARC technology in there. So just to clarify, as we go through, you don't need to add, and you cannot add any more nectar to it. So we have put good ARC technology in there, so it will give you good condition whilst colouring your hair. All right, so these are a few questions that are asked specifically really about what's going on with the Fast Colour. So we want to say the first one, Fast Colour, is it a cosmetic colour to all extents? Yes, it's an oxidating colour system, and it does give you 100% white hair coverage. Does it really cover the white hair or mask it? Okay, this is what I was saying to you guys earlier. You can get two types. So you can get 100% white hair coverage, really good effect, perfect, classic, really good coverage, or you can get a slightly brighter version. So we can think about it in two ways, and we are really probably, as we go back, something that Debbie and I have talked about a lot. Actually, when we go back, people are going to have coloured their hair anyway. I think they're going to surprise us. All those clients that you thought, No way, they're not going to do that. They're going to wait for me. I'm sure they've popped a little colour on themselves. Now, the thing is with home hair colour, what you'll notice, one of the big differences, it's got to do really a lot of jobs all in one. So usually it's higher in PPD, then it will be higher usually in ammonia. If you find one that's ammonia free, that's kind of lucky, but generally they have to do they have to do so many jobs. And so what you'll find, your clients that have been colouring their hair at home will feel a little bit darker than what you've used, probably especially mine, because I absolutely love Giulietta. Of course I love all of the lines, but for that 100% white hair, I love the softness. They're not going to get that with home hair colour. So in the initial time, something that we thought about, which fast colour would work for you guys when you go in, those clients that have been colouring their hair at home, it's going to feel very, very dark compared to what you do. We're going to have solutions for that next week for you, next Friday. And we're going to go over those things. But just something that may help being quick is that if they've got a small root, perhaps because they've got to be in and out the salon quickly, we can use MC2 fast colour, and then we can talk whilst we're cutting their hair to be able to get them in for their follow-up consultations. So fast colour will be great because they'll have tiny roots. We can deal with whatever they need to deal with later on. And we can get the appointments all set up and do things that you need to do, possibly lots of your tests, so all your incompatibility, because perhaps we're going to be needing to lift, etc., etc. You can do that as, you know, later. You can take your test cutting, you can do all those things, and just do, actually Debbie called it quite well, we could just band-aid it. We can just touch up their little tiny roots. We can do it with 1-to-1 in the fast colour. And yeah, that's it for an elastoplast on it. And we can just touch up what they've got, and then we can deal with doing whatever they really need, possibly going lighter, putting pieces in. They're going to want that change. But if you just want to just get through and you know what they've been doing, MC2 Fast Colour 1-to-1 will be really good for you. So it's just a little way, hopefully, that you'll be able to use. Okay, so with MC2 Fast Colour, is it possible to obtain any type of colouring service as long as it's with traditional oxidation? So the most important thing that you have to remember with fast colour, it's a 10-minute colour. So everything about this is fast services. So we don't want to compromise. So what I was just saying actually about perhaps we're going to need to take some colour out, we're going to need to highlight, all of those things. This is where we're going to be using M3K, MC2 and Giulietta generally, and this will not change. So this is all our clients with a large regrowth, perhaps they have waited for us, and they're going to have our traditional colouring services because they've got a large regrowth. Perhaps we need to do a lot of work, perhaps they need highlights. So because it's a 10-minute colour, you can't mix it in with high lifts. So we couldn't do a few highlights and then add bleaches and then add high lift tints, because how long they need, and those services require more time. Does that make sense to you guys? Brilliant. Okay, so how can MC2 Fast Colour cover grey hair in 10 minutes? Okay, so the formulation has the same principle of MC2 and the same as oxidation colour, but it acts in a much shorter time. So the formula is very different, making the pigments penetrate much quicker and faster in the hair structure, which is again why I repeat that you can't be using nectar, because nectar needs at least 15 minutes, doesn't it? If you guys remember the last presentations. So this is why we are talking about this formulation. You cannot intermix any other colour with it. So MC2 Fast Colour is purely to be used on its own. I mean, I'm always reiterating this to you guys. saying, please don't mix Julietta with MC2, etc., etc. They are the lines on their own. We can't intermix those. Jane, I see your question. Okay, so no, I wouldn't recommend that. So James Heat, she said, can you do foils, leave them to process, then 15 minutes before you rinse and do a fast colour on the roots? I wouldn't recommend that, because if you're going to do your foils, with the amount of time that it's got, you may as well use your traditional lines. So MC2, Julietta, M3K, because everything develops at the same time. We also don't want to rinse those foils out and compromise getting the hair wet. Second of all, if we shampooed and then applied fast colour, we would then change the pH of the scalp and the hair. So remember, I'm always talking to you guys about not shampooing in between services, because we want to keep the pH level up a little where it's doing its job. Does that make sense for you guys? I hope that's answered that question, because that sits in with this question here. So good question. Thanks, Jane. Brilliant. All right, so we're going to go on to our colour mixing ratio. Now, apart from super high lifts, they are 1:2 in our traditional colours. And you know, in our traditional colours, MC2, M3K, Julietta is always 1 to 1.5. Now what we've got here, MC2 fast colour is 1:1, and this is for intense, rapid root coverage. So this is the ideal if they've coloured their hair at home, because it's 1:1. It's really intense. You'll get a really good blanket coverage. Now, if you, like me, use a lot of Julietta, and I like that, and the clients are going to have, say perhaps this will work well as new services in the future. They have Julietta, but they've got something nice happening and they're in for a blow dry, but their roots have surprised them and come through a little bit sooner than they thought. We can just do a little T-section, and they use Julietta, they love it. My idea for you would be to use 1 to 1.5, because it'll mimic a little bit more like Julietta. Is that okay for you guys? Okay. Now, when we talk about doing the ends, so we're going to take the colour through to the ends. So we're going to pop the colour on the roots, and you're going to look here and do 1:1 for intense root coverage. Yep, Tommy, you still get full coverage with 1 to 1.5. Absolutely, because you get full coverage with Julietta, don't you? But it just has a different feel. Julietta is much more, has much more brilliance and is a little brighter, whereas I think M3K is a little bit deeper with more intensive colour. So you can really feel the difference with those two. So that's why we've got the two different mixing ratios with fast colour. So 1:1 is fast colour, and 1 to 1.5 makes it less intense. It makes it more brilliant. So don't think that it will make it less intense, because you will still get good coverage, 100% root coverage. Okay, thank you, Connie. We're going to pop those questions on the end. I can see them, and we'll do that at the end, because that will fit in really well. What is MC2 fast colour mixing ratio? So we talked about 1 to 1.5 for quick, brilliant, brighter coverage. So if you've got brighter colours, perhaps they're reds and coppers, I would go to the 1 to 1.5. If we're going to take through to the ends, we've got 1 to 2. So for example, we've put the root colour on, and we've done that 1:1, but they've just got a little half a shade lighter reflection on the ends. So we just want to intensify that and just revamp it. That's all. Nothing really major. We can't do anything major. We can do 1 to 2 through those ends immediately after you've done the roots. Remember always, as soon as you've popped your roots on, that's when you start doing your timing. So it's 10 minutes from the moment you've put your roots on. So if you think by the time you've put the colour through the ends, that should have taken you 5 minutes. The end colour will have only had 5 minutes. So therefore it won't end up being too intense. Because you've used 1 to 2, you'll just keep the reflection, and that will all balance quite nicely together. How is that for you guys? Am I being clear on how to apply those? I'm asking you lots of questions today, aren't I? Keep you with me. Let's have a quick look at that. Would the mixing ratio change the development time, or will it stay at 10 minutes? Good question. No, we're going to keep that for 10 minutes. I will revisit these questions at the end. So if they relate to what I'm saying now, I'll answer for you. If there's something that will take a little bit longer, then we'll relook at those anyway. So here we are. Can I mix MC2 fast colour with MC2? No. Exactly. There is no point. There is absolutely, they've got completely different formulations, and it's not correct chemically. And as we are looking at Debbie's webinars and things at the moment, we must make sure we're following manufacturer's instructions. I can't stress to you enough, and I'm happy to always answer any questions about this, but it's really important that we follow these manufacturer's instructions. Here we go again. Can I use nectar for the colour without ammonia on MC2 fast colour? I spoke about this one earlier. We don't need nectar. We've got a small amount of nectar in our fast colour already, and nectar needs a longer processing time to do the active ingredients, and that needs to be used with MC2 colour. All right, let me have a quick little peek here. Is it 10 minutes no matter what the peroxide? Yes, thank you, Michelle. That's really good. Absolutely it is. I'm going to cover peroxides in a moment. So depending on whatever you use, it's a 10-minute colour. What happens if you leave it on a bit longer when you're busy, etc.? Okay, so if you know you've got somebody with quite resistant hair, and you don't mind, you could leave that on for 12 minutes. It's no problem. It'll just be a little bit more intense. This is also why it's really important that we look at our application. So thanks to that question, Gary, because that's led me on, I haven't got my glasses on, I have to get a bit closer. That's led me on to making sure that our application is really neat. Hopefully you guys have seen the videos and you can see how, no, Jane, you cannot leave for 20 minutes. Thank you. It's a 10-minute colour. It will be, think about, so if we think about our alkali and acid, you can hear me laughing, I can. So think about that. We don't want to, again, we're following manufacturer's instructions. It's really important for me. This is a 10-minute colour. This is fast colour. So if you want just that fraction of intensity, 12 minutes maximum is perfect. This is when we're going to be needing our little timers to make sure that we're really keeping on track of what we're doing. Okay, so here we are. To cover the regrowth, it must be carried out with precision. So as Gary asked me, if you leave it on a bit longer, also what's important is your application. Don't cover or overlay the previous colour. It's really important that we do really neat application. You can do fast application, but it's got to be neat. So one of the things that we were talking about with fast colour is to think about those clients that have got a 3-week regrowth, so really tiny. Think about if it's 4 weeks, maybe at a push, and maybe it would just be a T-section. So you think about doing just through the top, the little crown area, and just round the front there. And that would be fine. So we're thinking about fast colour, fast ways to apply it. Okay, so yeah, just to repeat myself, it covers 100% grey hair, 100% grey, it's no problem. Would this be suitable to comb on colour for gents? Yeah, you could. We're going to go through the colour chart, so I'll answer those questions in a little bit. I think that's a great question. I'll do that in a little while if that's okay for me, Danielle. All right. So MC2 fast colour, can I apply the mixture of natural and fantasy shades on the lengths and ends? Well, as always when we're colouring, we always suggest that you only put the fantasy shades on the lengths and ends when it's coloured hair already. Obviously, if it's virgin hair, which is a miracle really, very rare, then you use your base colour with your fantasy. But when you're working over recoloured hair, already previously coloured, you don't need to add the base. It's the mixing ratio of 1 to 2. So perhaps you've used 7.0 here and 7.4 on the roots, 1 to 1. Through the ends would be 7.4, 1 to 2. Yeah? Yeah, this is going to be great for our 3 weekly clients. It's going to add you an extra service. Emma, that's cheating. Okay, so does MC2 colour last? Oh, I'm really sorry. Does MC2 colour last as a traditional colour? Yes, absolutely. So it does last like a permanent colour, oxidation colour. However, there are questions that we've talked about before. So think about the porosity of your client's hair. Think about how often do they wash their hair. So all of the same questions, all of your same consultation questions that we shouldn't change. You know, do they swim a lot? How do they use heat appliances a lot? All of this is exactly the same. So we need to know what they're doing. Don't change your consultation patterns. This is really important. MC2 fast colour will be something the hairdresser will recommend. The client's not going to say to you, oh, can I have the 10-minute colour? They may do once they get used to that. They may ring me and say, Jude, I've got something really lovely to go to. I've got to have that 10-minute colour and a blow dry. Great, because we know that. But they're not going to know about it until we tell them about it. So you can already, in my mind, I'm starting to think about the clients that I want, start choosing those clients that I think this would work really well with. So like all professional permanent colour, this will last as long, depending on what they do with their hair. Is that clear for you guys? That work all right? Good, good, good. All right, so here we say, can I use a heat source during the developing time with MC2 fast colour? Brilliant. Thanks, guys. As with all our other lines, we don't recommend heat. So we're not going to with MC2 fast colour. And also, as it says, given its speed, we don't need to use it. Right. Here we go. So here's our collection. You can see our fast colour is in the blue tube, so you won't get muddled with which one's which. It'll also have on the box and on the tube, it has the recommended mixing ratios. Now, you can, exactly the same, use it with 10, 20, 30 or 40. Why are we recommending cream activator? Okay, so here, we are recommending cream activator because if you think it's a slightly thicker formula and it's 1-to-1. So when we talk about our application, we want ease of application. We want it to penetrate through the hair easily. The cream activator works better than the Luxe activator. It just makes it more pliable for you guys. So I'm going to recommend cream activator with MC2 fast colour. Is that okay for you guys? Those of you that do use Luxe, I understand that you've got Luxe in, but I'm going to recommend cream activator because it's really important about application. All right. Just looking at your questions there. I'm going to answer those questions. They're really great questions. Keep them coming. Thank you, guys. So here we are. After careful diagnosis, we're going to have a look and see whether we want intense and deep colour on the roots or whether we want a soft brighter reflection, or whether we're using tone on tone colour, so toning of colour. So for example, if you want to think about the clients that would use 1 to 2, you could use that as a demi colour, and that would be 1 to 2. So for example, I could use the black on my hair with 10 volume, because my hair's pretty dark. I don't, no lightening needed. I've got a few grey hairs to cover. I know that I'm going to get 100% coverage on that, and I could run that 1 to 2 straight the way through, and that would be perfect for me. So that would give you an indication of when to use that as an all over colour. But otherwise, we're going to use either 1 to 1 or 1 to 1.5. What we said earlier, here is our ingredient of ARC. So we do have a small amount that is already in there, our active revitalising complex. Let me just have a little look at that. Is there MC2 developers? Okay, so I'm going to go through the developers. Let me go through here. Tammy, do you just use MC2? MC2, so you'll use the Luxe developer in your salon. For those of you that do, sensors do 2 types of peroxides. There's no difference in the lifts, just to remind you all, absolutely no different at all between 40 volume in the cream activator and 40 volume in the Luxe activator. There's no difference. It's just the consistency. I always have both in my salon, because with my decos and my bleaches, I really like the cream activator, because you have to be really precise about your measuring. I know how I like my product to feel when I'm using bleach, so cream works better for me. So as the same with the MC2 fast colour, it's going to be a lot thicker with Luxe developer, so that's why we recommend the cream activator. I'm MC2, but we have cream activator for lightness. So you'll use this cream activator exactly the same for MC2 fast colour. That's no problem, Tammy. Perfect. All right, so we have activating ingredients of cotton. It hydrates, and it's really good for the hair keratin structure. So you can see one of the most important things with sensors, they are continuously looking for how to maintain the condition of the hair. So even with the fast colour, they've tested it so many times, and it's really working with condition as well. For you guys that are new to sensors, you'll start to understand that they don't put anything out that hasn't been tested or that they're really happy with, because we're not a company that recalls. So it's really important for us to keep the condition of the hair. So I hope that's okay. I'm going to talk about the micropigments. I can see all the questions coming in, and don't stop those. I'm going to carry on with the presentation. Sometimes I'll pick up a question that I think relates, but keep them going, because we'll have a lot to go through afterwards. All right, so let's talk about these micropigments. So what we said in the formula, we've got our amino acids, the ARC technology, and that actually helps us for an easy transfer for good coverage. What's really important is that, I think you guys can see my little mouse here. You can see here that they're more of a little like hexagon shapes. So we've got the straight edges that keep, and what happens is when they interlock, sometimes with the round ones, they don't interlock as easy. So with these micropigments, these structures, they've got a different shape, so they can actually, the sides stick to each other. So this helps to give us and guarantee us perfect coverage. So you'll start to see different sort of science things come out. These are really important for us. And it really gives us a good, vibrant and stable colour. Now, you guys are going to need to, I think you will have downloaded it the other day. If not, we're going to make sure that you guys can download it again. I know it will be on the Passion for Hair stylist hotline. I'm sure it will be on all of those, so you can get this. This is the most important piece of information for me. Now you guys sort of understand all the science and stuff behind it. This part is really important. This has got one of my favourite charts, and it tells you how much lift you can get. So the most important thing when you think about MC2 fast colour, it's not going to be for everybody. So it's not going to be for those clients that have high lifting. It's not going to be for those clients that have need 3 levels of lift. When you think about fast colour, we're thinking fast application, fast techniques, fast colour, and also maintaining in the perimeter of 1 to 1.5 maximum levels of lift, even with 40 volume. So if you've got a client that is a base 4 and she needs to get to a base 7, this is not the colour for her. It's really important. You can't use that on these clients. So you can see in the colour chart earlier, I'll show you again in a moment, that they're very neutral colours, lots of natural shades. So when you're working on clients that are around only 1 to 1.5 levels of lift, that's the maximum we can do. So can you guys see my little arrow here if I'm doing this on the screen? Oh, good. So what you can see here is this is the hair shaft that runs all the way through. Here we've got the blue area, which is the area that it does the best work. As it fades out, so when you get into the purple zones here, you can't see, you know it's going to fade out and you don't get much levels of lift. So when you're working on clients that are very dark, up to a level 5, here you can see your 40 volume is not going to give you 2 levels of lift. You can see the blue area, you'll get 1 level, brilliant, and perhaps you'll get a little bit more, half a shade that just goes into the purple zone. So perhaps, you know, you've got a client that's a level 5 and she likes a 6.2, and that's okay. You could use that with 40 volume and get that really good coverage. This chart for me, thank you, Debbie, I love it because it works really well. So here you are. We'll start with 20 volume, tone on tone colour. You can see it works really well, and you might get half a shade lift. Can you see that? Because here's level 1, so you might get half a shade lift here, and that's maximum that you're going to get with the 20 volume. So the only difference is our volume of peroxide doesn't work the same as it would traditionally. Because with fast colour, we need to colour the hair quickly. We can't lift the hair. Do you remember in my other presentations, we talk about when we need maximum amount of lift, we apply more colour because we need to slow down the oxidation process. With this, we're doing this very fast, so we're not going to get those levels of lift 55 minutes with super high lift. So those clients that have super high lift, this is not for them. All right, so when they are a level 6 and lighter, you can see that 20 volume or 30 volume here is a little bit more active, and you might get a quarter of a shade or half a shade more. So with the 40 volume, do you see it's a little bit, it's blue just a little higher up, some more of like 1.5 shades of lift there. Can you see that? One of the things we're going to do and talk about next week in our presentation is we're going to talk about undertones and things. So when we're thinking about MC2 fast colour, we're not going to get a huge amount of lift. So think about the undertone for the hair. So if you know that the client likes it very cool, you're going to use 0.1, I'm sure. But if they need 1 level of lift, you've got to use that with 40 volume, because we need to try and achieve a little bit more so the ash can show through. Do you remember that's what we'd been talking about before? So we're going to really cover some of those things. And just so you guys know, Michaela and I are working on some presentations to do more intense colouring like this. So if you need more questions about this chart, just let me know, because I think this is the one that really made this product click for me. So fast colour, quick techniques, not up to 1.5 levels of lift maximum. So you've got to do your same diagnosis. That's what I was saying. Don't change your consultation. Do your same diagnosis. If you're using fast colour, use fast colour to do diagnosis of natural hair. If you're using Julietta, do Julietta to diagnose natural hair. Put it down the same way the hair's going. Make sure the light's the same on the client's head, so you can see that. Sorry. Does that make sense for you? So that part for me is the most important part. Brilliant. Good. All right, let's have a little look. So here we're going to talk about timeline. I don't need to probably tell you too much about this timeline. This is what we're sort of doing here to be faster. So it will take you maybe 2 minutes to prepare your client. We're giving ourselves 5 minutes to analyse where the client needs to be. Now, for future, we will know this anyway, because when we're talking consultations with the clients and we're looking at what they have normally, then we can adjust our peroxide levels to help us with our diagnosis. So in the future, this consultation will be probably a little bit faster, because we'll know our notes from what we do normally and how we need to adjust them, so forth. So we're saying 5 minutes, but actually when you know the client and you've told them specifically they're having fast colour, because again, you're doing that, you're telling them, the client's not going to ask you for this. We've got 5 minutes here for our consultation, a couple of minutes for preparation of mixture. I'm just going to pop my little reminder out there for you. Please remember not to mix it up until you're ready. So if you go off and mix up your colour and things and get it all prepared, you can put the cream and the peroxide together. But once you stand with the client, mix it and then apply. Because remember, it's a 10-minute colour. We don't want it to oxidise it in the bowl. We want it to do that on the head. I know I drive everybody crazy about that, but it is one of my bugbears. All right, so we've got application mixture. So we've said 5 minutes here. Now, I know for a full head, normally we give ourselves sort of 15 minutes of really good application. If we're going to do a full head, perhaps we're choosing those clients that do have a small head, that perhaps have finer hair, and we don't have masses of it. So this application will be quick. For 5-minute application, we're thinking of 3 techniques. Very, very small regrowth everywhere. A bit slightly bigger, maybe 3 weeks to 4 weeks maximum, or they've got like a ton of hair, then perhaps we're just going to do partial hairline crown area, and that will be a 5-minute. Or what we could do is perhaps we've got a client who has got some natural hair, or we just want to put a couple of flashes in. We could just do a couple of foils either side of like a nice red or copper or something like this, and just put a little bit through. And that, again, 3 packets here, 3 packets there, something like that. It's going to be a 5-minute application. 10 minutes on, so forth. And of course, we've got here about regrowth application and then your ends. And then we have 5 minutes here for shampooing. So removal of product is exactly the same. So make sure that you massage to help with the colour on the skin to really get that off. Work the water through once you've done that everywhere, so you really remove that well. And then shampoo and condition as you would normally, and that will work really well. And you've saved yourself at least 25 minutes. Okay. So here is the colours or our tones and what we've got here. Also, you'll get the colour chart, which is on our other presentation, which we'll go to in a second. And let's have a look. So we've got all our natural shades, 3, 4, 5. Here there's a mistake there. Sorry, that's my presentation. We have corrected it. It should say 6.0, not 6.7, all the way through to a level 10. Now, you know you're not going to achieve a level 10 if the client is a 5. However, if they're an 8.5, maybe a 9 for sure, you know you could easily use a 10. Or perhaps they've got 100% white hair, completely grey. Then you could use that. Here we've got our 0.1s. So we can see here. You can see that we've got a 10.1 here. Now, one of the questions that was thrown up a few times is, can you use fast colour for toning? It's not my recommendation. Yes, you can, but it's not my recommendation. If you're toning your client's hair, generally it's on bleached hair. So I'm always going to encourage you to use nectar. So when we're toning, I want to put the condition back in the hair and use as much nectar and much goodness as I possibly can. So for me, fast colour isn't my route for toning. Is that clear for you guys? I'm trying to think of all the questions that, or all the things that may come up. All right, brilliant. So here we've got our 0.24s, which are really popular, and our 0.2s, they're really popular as well. We have our golds, 6.4 and 7.4, because they're our most common used, and you can see that they are in the 6 and 7 because on average quite a few of our clients roughly would be around a 5 or 6, so this would be a really common. If they were a level 5 and they like a 7.4, you'd just about get a 7.4. It'd be just in between there somewhere, and you use that with 40 volume. Whereas perhaps normally you might use 7.4 with 30 volume and get really good coverage and lift, etc., etc. Probably that's what you will have done, but we're going to need the extra 40. All right, here we've got our 2 reds, and then we've got our little mahogany and our violet. And then at the bottom here, you can see we've got one that says sweeten. So as not to make our colour chart too big, what we've done is added the sweeten. Now, sweeten is a light clear. It will pastelise all your colours. It's not a booster and it won't give you any more lift. So this is really important for you guys. Remember I said maximum of 1 to 1.5 levels of lift. So when it's not like in Julietta where we've got our booster, lifting booster, it's not that at all. Sweeten is more like our clear, so it will pastelise all our shades. So for example, if the client is a level 7 and they usually have an 8.4, we could use 7.4, half of 7.4 and half of sweeten, and get somewhere around about an 8.4. It might be a 7.5, but it just gives you that extra little movement there. Same here with 7.24. That will just give you that little bit of lightness. So also we talked about when we take the colour through to the ends. The best way that you can do that is to use a shade lighter. So for example, my client is 7.24. I've used 30 volume. She's got over 50% white hair, and I'm going to use 7.0, 7.24 and 30 volume on my roots. Straight away, I'm going to take the colour through to the ends, but I'm going to use 7.24, half of sweeten, and I'm going to use 10 volume. And then I will get a really great even shade, not too dark, really great reflection. Does that help you guys? Hopefully I've been really clear for you on those things, because I think it's important. The sweeten is going to be a really excellent tool for us, and it's really going to give you different ways to keep expanding your hairdressing, so nothing ever sits still. You don't get bored with anything, so it will give us some really good extras, but keeping control of how many colours we've got in the sense in the tones and the nuisances. So this for me is really important. Can I go through that again? Yeah, no problem. Okay, so just to repeat, I've got a client who is over 50% grey hair. She's only at level 6 normally, and she likes 7.24. So I'm going to use 30 volume. I'm going to use 7.0 and 7.24 and 30 volume. Because I've only got one level to lift, so 30 volume should be perfect for me. She's got over 50% white hair, so I need the base. And I'm going to apply that to the roots, 1 to 1. Immediately, I'm going to take my colour through to the ends. So as not to make my ends too dark, I'm going to use 7.24, half of sweeten to create an 8.24 somewhere here. I'm going to take that straight the way through with 10 volume. That will only have probably about 5 or 6 minutes tops on those ends, because we're timing from the moment we've applied 7.0 and 7.24. Has that helped you there? That was Debbie, wasn't it? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so what are the mixing ratios? That's a good question, because I'm going to do that now for you. Mixing ratios for natural and target shade, depending on percentage of white hair, is slightly different with fast colour. So I think the most important thing is always to go with half and half to try, because they all cover 100% white hair. So you've got your 5.0, your 0.6. If you've got fashion shades, you're going to need to add the base. So this is really important. And I would say start off with half and half. It's fast colour, 10 minutes, you're going to blend and make their colour from what they normally have to get rid of those roots instantly. If you feel that you want a little more tone, next time you do that, you'll be able to do that. So I always recommend to start off with half and half. Is fast colour available yet? By the time we open, it sure will be. And I know that there's a special offer on that at the moment. So we have, I think it's for the whole collection, is £180. And it's near on the 200 and something mark. Debbie's probably there to tell us exactly how that is. So you'll be able to order that in and get that going. Okay. No, they haven't made a new chart for the wall. Okay, so do you know what? I'm going to go to the questions. Hopefully, I've covered everything on that presentation. And then if we go to here, you're going to see me twice. Sorry, guys. I'm going to end my sharing. Here is me normally. Declan, have I done that all right? Everybody can see me. Oh, brilliant. Do you know, I'm getting quite snazzy on these computers. I'm missing my hairdressing life, though, that is for sure. Right, let's go through some of the questions, guys. And if you've got any more, just keep adding them for me. It's no problem. Do you still get full coverage with 1 to 1.5? Absolutely, you do. Thank you, Tommy. And I would say that mimics more Julietta. How much do you recommend charging for this fast colour service? Okay, I think that's a really good question. If I'm doing a regrowth all over, very small, then I'm going to charge the same amount as I would normally. I think that if I'm working on smaller sections, perhaps I'm going to do half a head or quarter of a head. I might make a new price list for that, but I think we will show the launch offer in a minute. Brilliant, thank you. But I think I'm going to keep mine exactly the same because it still takes that time to apply. It still has that if you're doing an all over regrowth. Has that answered that question for you, Connie? Or for anyone else? I think it's something that's really good to talk about. All right, let's do the next question. At the top, guys, there's the fast colour launch offer. So you can view that here, so you can have a little peek there while I'm talking. Would this be suitable for colour to comb on, colour for gents? Yeah, this was a really good question, Danielle. I think it will be a great colour for gents. However, when we think about where it sits in the colour lines, so we have M3K is much warmer than Julietta, and MC2 is cooler. It sits on the cooler side, but it's not quite like Julietta, not as cool as Julietta. We have to think about if they're 100% white hair, yes, this is okay, but if there is any movement of a lift, remember this is going to be a little bit warmer. So think about that before you use that for your gents, because perhaps they don't like that warmth. And in which case I would stick with men's colour. And we'll have the next question. Can you pre-colour resistant hair? Me. Okay, so no, Debbie, if you're, I know that you've got resistant hair, and actually you're a great example to talk about, if you don't mind, because at the back of Debbie's hair, she's much darker and probably needs, I would say, 2 to 3 levels of lift to achieve her colour that she has now. So fast colour wouldn't work for Debbie at the back because it would make it really quite brassy. However, I know in the front section, this is where Debbie's more resistant. So she could use 1-to-1 in the mixture, and that would give that a little bit more good coverage, that really blanket coverage. Plus you could leave it for 12 minutes and that would be fine. So that would be enough for me. Hopefully that's answered that question for you, Debbie. So when we do Debbie's little colour, fast colour, she will only have that little white area done. I wouldn't touch the back. Brilliant. Excellent. And the next one. Application from some stylists could take longer than 10 minutes to apply. Would it be okay to start timing 10 minutes from the last piece of application? Okay, so Naomi, this is really good. Yes, you always time from the last moment that you've popped it on, but we're thinking about fast colour. So perhaps we wouldn't do an all over colour. So for example, my hair's very fine. And if I had a tiny little root or I was taking it all the way through, I could apply this really quickly in 5 or 10 minutes and then leave it my 10 minutes. That's no problem. But for example, Debbie has much more hair than me. And to do a full head on hers, which we discussed not at the back, would be too much. And you wouldn't get that fast application, fast technique, and fast colour. So really great question. I would say, for those stylists, think about tiny roots and think about areas of the hair that they might be doing. Okay, next question. Would the main reason for choosing this colour be purely for processing time? Absolutely. Good question. Thanks, Helen. Yes, I definitely think it's application time. So currently, at the moment, globally, we need to, perhaps the client can only be in the salon in some places for an hour, or perhaps they want to be in and out. So it works really well for this current moment. But actually, I've been waiting for something like this because those clients that do have a 2 weekly colour, that really love a 2 weekly colour, They don't have to come in and sit in the salon for all that time. So those clients that do a little touch up on themselves at home, we can now ask them to stop doing that. We have a professional way that we can look after them. These, I think, are really, really good. I think it raises our game continuously, and we're really fitting in where we need to in the market. So not only for now, but for the future, for me, I think this fast colour will be brilliant for some clients that love that 2 weekly little touch up, you know, that don't like a single grey hair to notice. Okay, next question. Maximum root size, would you recommend? Great question, thank you, Gary. I'm going to say 4 weeks is maximum regrowth, but I love a 2 week little touch up, so it'll be tiny, tiny, tiny. If they've got 6 weeks, you have to say to your client, no, this is not for you. You need your normal full colour. Okay, we'll have the little next one. If a client usually had M3K and have an up-to-date skin test, they come in 6 weekly and want a T-section cover, do we have to do another skin test to use MC2? Great question, Jane. No, we don't, because we use Colour Star. So that covers for everything that we need. Would you charge the same as a routine if you're doing full head and less for a T-section? Yep, definitely, Maria, great. What Connie and I were speaking about earlier. Can you give an example of the type of client you would use this for? So yes, definitely for those clients that want to spend less time in the salon now, for sure, you can get those. For the clients at the moment that have been home colouring their hair and you need to do a big amount of work, but you know they just want a haircut and their roots topped up, and sometimes it's very difficult to explain to a client, isn't it? You can't have this and you've got to have that. So perhaps it's just they don't want to spend a lot of time, and then they can come in, do that, then we can prepare them for the next part of their journey, if you like. So something Debbie and I were talking about earlier is doing all the tests. So your incompatibility test, your strand test, your pieces that you need. This is so important that we do not stop doing these things, and even more so now. We're going to talk about them a lot next week, but even more so now because clients are fiddling around and using stuff on their hair. So perhaps we could just match up to what they've got going on very quickly, like we said, band-aid it, stick a little elastoplast on it, cover it, and then we can take all the tests that we need, all our essential tests, thank you, Debbie, that are really important because we perhaps need to do a big colour change and we don't know if they'll be compatible to have some bleaching options. This is really important. I also mentioned earlier that I think lightening oil is going to be a huge baby. So when they have too much dark hair, we're going to be really covering that. So anyone else I can think of? 2 weekly clients, those. Yeah, 2 weekly clients. I don't know if I mentioned that enough today. Thanks, Jay. Next question. Can you use it with a toner with cosmetic fix? Thank you, Deanna. I think I mentioned this earlier. It's not something that I would recommend because toners are generally 5 or 6 minutes anyway. And also with the toners, I want to make sure that I apply plenty of nectar. So it's really important for me when I'm toning that I'm using that nectar because I constantly want to think about the condition. So don't use fast colour as toning. Refreshing, little root touch-ups. One of the things that's important as well is if the client has more than one level lighter on the ends and we know that we need to recolour, you're going to need to use your traditional M3K, MC2, Julietta choices rather than fast colour. Can you use this in foil on previously coloured hair? You can. Of course, remember that tint doesn't lift tint, so we can only apply if it's lighter. So for me, I wouldn't be able to put a red on my dark hair because it will still have the same properties as traditional colour. It won't do anything. But if I was a 7 or a 6 all over, and I just wanted, a 6 is a good example, maybe I could add a few little copper pieces because that's easy to do with 6.4, and that will just change the tone for the client. So yeah, you could do that. And think about, we're not going to do foils everywhere because that takes quite a while to get in. Perhaps we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or a couple of little flashes in the fringe. Fast colour, fast application. All right, next one. We've got some good questions here today. What are the different mixing ratios with natural and target shade depending on percentage of white hair? Hopefully I covered that. So if they have resistant hair and if they have a lot of white hair, and I think the first time that you use fast colour on your clients, do the 1-to-1 mixture because you'll get brilliant coverage. It will really secure that faith. I know because you guys haven't used it or seen it, you're thinking, gosh, which way round should I do it? I'm going to recommend to you guys 1-to-1. Make sure you do that. If you're using fashion shades and you know they've got over 50% white hair, you know you're going to need some half and half of base. Think about if you want to get 1 to 1.5 shades of lift, it's got to be with 40 volume. So think about those things. If I'm staying on the same shade, if I've just got half a shade to cover, if they're 100% white hair, 20 volts, brilliant. 30 volume would be my 1 level. I know that the peroxides are going to sort of make you feel a little bit about it because they act very differently with fast colour to how they do traditionally. So this is really important, but that's a great question. Thank you. Let's have the next one. Yep. Hopefully Debbie answered that one for you. It will be available. Have they made a new colour chart for the wall, which includes fast colour? So we haven't got a wall chart at the moment. We've got, actually this presentation has the manual. So I think probably after the questions, I can show you on our presentation, can't I, Dec? It's our other one, so it's the one that's downloaded that will have everything. He's answering for me. And I think you guys will be able to pick that up anyway. Yeah, can download it. Great. Yeah, do you know what? I think it's a real game changer. I really love it. SOS oil, absolutely. Great, thanks, Emma. Because I forgot to mention that, so that's really good. Thank you for reminding me. Go about your business as you would. Same preparations, put your scalp oil on, put your barrier cream round. Perhaps you're going to use recovery spray in the ends, porosity spray. So go about that as you would normally. There are no changes there. And think about those things because definitely fast application, but think about those things because we still want the client to have the most gorgeous treatment in the salon. I know the colour's only for 10 minutes, but you still need to make it an experience. And being part of this Passion for Hair team, that is what we're all about. So don't make any changes for that. So thank you for reminding me of that, Emma, because that's really good. Does that collection include the developer? Do you mean the pack, Maria, on that? Yes, I think, Debbie, can you answer that for me, or one of the guys there? Do they get the peroxides within the pack? Yep, it does. Thank you for that. Fantastic. Okay, is the sweetener half of the colour in the bowl or half of the whole colour with peroxide? Ah, great question. No, it's half of the, as you would normally. So if you mix 30 mils of colour, you're going to do 15 mils of colour, 15 mils of sweetener, and then if you're doing it 1-to-1, then it's of course 30, and if it's 1-to-1.5, it will be 45. Great question. So it's not an additive. It's part of it. All right, we'll have the next one. Thank you. On the opening offer, there's a fix. You didn't mention fix on the slide earlier. When would you use fix? Brilliant. Thank you. Actually, there is, but when would I use fix? As a semi-permanent, like, well, I'd say demi-permanent, you could use cosmetic fix. It will give you a very, very soft regrowth. So most of the time I'd recommend 10 volume, just because of the oxidation and the timings, but you could do that. So for resistant hair, you don't need pre-colour. No, when we talk about resistant hair, often if a client's got really very resistant hair, it will generally be in little sections across the head. So this is really important. Thanks, Jane. You would do your traditional colour. So if you know that they have real problems with hair coverage, then you must carry on in those little areas as you would normally. So fast colour would be for that client. It just wouldn't. But not everybody has really, it's a very few and far between that has really resistant hair. Perhaps they have 100% white hair, like white hair, and sometimes it can look a little bit softer. Then that's okay. You can use 1-to-1 with fast colour, and that's no problem. Perhaps that little too weaker. Remembering it's not going to be a big regrowth like what we're going to have and what we're going to talk about, because those big regrowths, we're going to work with our normal traditional colours. So this will be, if the hair is a little bit, it covers, but sometimes it's a little translucent, but not really resistant. It's very different. I think 1-to-1 will be perfect. Just to clarify, the longevity of the colour is dependent on a hair care routine. Absolutely, no difference. We are going to look at all the things that they do at home. Obviously, it's a permanent colour, so they're going to get a regrowth, so it will cover 100%, or it will change and lighten slightly, only up to 1.5 levels. I keep repeating myself, but it's something I really want you to get in your head so that you know you've got a limited amount of clients that will have this. So yeah, if they're over straightening, if they're swimming, if they're doing all those things, of course, you know, the porosity's as it is, so it's going to have the same effect. They're going on holiday, it's the same effect. Go to MC2 next time, would there be a band? No, they wouldn't. So the idea is about you guys making sure that your consultation is correct and you're analysing correctly. So I would always recommend, if you're using 30 volume most of the time, you've got to have a look how many shades of lift that you need. So this is the important part. We can have a look at, you can think about your clients, we can talk about it. I'm always here to help. So if you say, oh, I've got this client, this is what she usually does, I would always say go up a level in your peroxide, just because that will give you just that little teeny bit more lift. It might only be 1/4 of a shade, but it's really, really good to think about just going up a level with your peroxide choice for that. That will hopefully help you. But no, you shouldn't get a band at all. Maybe we should meet someone's garden for you to go over this all again. Well, I love that idea. I can be one of your 6. All right. As some people's hair grows faster than others, 4 weeks is maximum, but maybe a larger regrowth. Would you say no more than, no, that's even still a bit too long. 1 to 1.5 centimetres is quite big. I would like to say half a centimetre to a centimetre maximum. Unless, of course, you're just doing a little panel here. So if you were just doing like, if they had like 1.5 and you were just going to do the parting and round the edge, yes, you could get away with that. Can you use it with colour elixir treatment? No. Are the molecules still small? Brilliant, thank you. Yes, they definitely are. One of the things that's really important with sensors, they are always looking for very, very tiny colour molecules. This is important because it gives us a really good stable colour. So absolutely they are. We're talking about some of the changes of the shape of them being with more straighter edges so they stick together really well. Yeah, so you can download it. Is scalp oil back? We're waiting. To be fair, it's really important for me. The new scalp oil was amazing, by the way. I've tested it a couple of times and I cannot wait. It's amazing. So I'm like, come on, let's get this back in. You'll have to speak with Debbie and Daniel if they've been advised on a date, because I know that lots of productions changed a little bit with, yeah, no date yet, sad face. But it is coming back and it is amazing. The update is amazing. It's really fantastic for the skin. What do I use as a scalp alternative to scalp oil? So I use Prep Spray by Euphoria. I never said those words. Can this colour be used a certain amount of times before needing to apply traditional sensors colours again? Yeah, great question. Thanks, Em. Yes, it can. So if they have a very short time, if somebody's worried over the next few months of spending too much time in the salon, this will be great. So you can just keep topping up their roots every 2 to 3 weeks if you want to, 3 weeks. And then perhaps they might have a traditional colour every sort of 4 months or so. So that's not a problem at all. Really great. That's all right, Maria. Thank you. Yeah, is this colour still 16s and overs? Without a doubt. We're still following manufacturer's instructions and our insurance policies. So this is really important. Thank you for that. It's really good. Can you use fast colour to pre-pig, then wipe it off and apply usual colour? No. Jane, you can't. So we don't want to intermix. So that's really good. I've got so many ladies this will be perfect for. I think they would happily pay more for an express colour. Will many of you be offering it as a higher price express service? I think that's really good. I'd love it if at some point in the future before we get back, because we're all talking about our price lists and changing our price lists and putting it out. Hopefully everybody's done an increase on their prices. I think this is really important now. And I think express colour can be, I love it. I think it's a really good opportunity for us. So maybe we could have a look and perhaps, Debbie, you might have some ideas about that in one of your presentations for the future to kind of give us all a little guide with that. I think that'd be brilliant. How about the sensors recovery spray, or is it best for the ends only? Yeah, you can spray that. It's great for the ends. You can spray it on the roots. But if I'm doing scalp bleaches, I still have some scalp oil, by the way, guys, because I've been sneaky with it. I have a lot of bleach clients, so we try to when I knew that I couldn't order anymore, I was like, so I'm really being funny about it. But I would say the Prep Spray at the minute. because it stops those radicals on the scalp, and it's good. It does what the oil does. All right, any more questions? Yeah. Prep spray, yeah, controls the free radicals. Thank you. Okay, so I hope that you guys have got a good amount of stuff. Thank you, Deck. You're my hero. I always tell him that, don't I? So here we are. We can see this will be the one that you can download and use for. This is the manual. So I think this is. Oh, hold on. I'm doing funny things to my screen. That bit. This is the colour chart, so you can see here. I can't, one of the things I can't express enough is just to make sure, so here we are, everything that we went through, here's the manual that Jane, you talked about earlier about having the chart. This manual is sort of 3 pages, I think, maximum, so this will be easy enough for you to print out or make larger and pop in the salon. It's got everything on there that you need. And this gives us, I would say, just get a good diagnosis for their natural hair is really important. I think when we do next week, so we've got lots of things, lots of questions planned for next week. I think it's going to be really, as Debbie's put there, essential for every stylist. I think it's very important that we share as much ideas and worries that we can. One of the things I was saying earlier is, do you know what? I have not, even on maternity leave, I didn't have this amount of time. Oh, thanks, guys. Here's the registration for next week. And I haven't been off this amount of time, even when I had maternity. So I know that some stylists are feeling a little nervous to get back to it because there might be a little apprehension with that. I think that I'm going to be putting the presentation together. If you've got questions for me, ask. Don't be shy about saying if you feel a little nervous and about having that conversation with your client again, because often it's good for us to be in control of doing that, talking to them, controlling them about what they've done. We can't be judgmental on what they've used. They've just done these things. So hopefully next week we can really talk about all those things and really get you guys going again to feel excited about getting back in the salon. You see, this new colour is going to help that. But I just don't want you guys to feel worried. We're all in it together and not to feel too alone. So I think that's going to be really good. All right. I think I've covered everything. Is there anything else that you guys need from me? Are you happy with everything we did today? It's really good to see you guys. I know I've kept you longer than I do usually, but I felt that we really needed to get this in the right position. So when we get back, thank you guys. It's lovely to spend time with you all. I'll see you all soon. Nervously excited.